Kids Who Farm is a Zamboanga City-based nonprofit startup inspiring the youth to be the next generation of farmers. Kids Who Farm won the first ever Manila Bulletin UPLIFT Award for Agriculture. Kids Who Farm is also iDEYA MSU-IIT's 2021 Startup of the Year. Muneer Hinay is the co-founder of Kids Who Farm. So hello Muneer, I'm very happy to have you here dito sa Startup Podcast.
Yeah, hello, Johnny. Good evening. Assalamualaikum. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to be a part of your show. This is a very one of a kind moment. No? So maraming salamat.
Yeah, and we're very honored to have you bilang you're the startup who won the first ever Manila Bulletin UPLIFT Award. So maybe later we can know more about that. So maybe let's start with ano nga ba ang Kids Who Farm?
So, Kids to Farm started as an idea. Actually, it's an idea of our founder, my then 9-year-old daughter, Raiina. So it's essentially Raina's idea to start something, to start a solution to a problem sa eskwelahan niya. She wanted to save her school garden, and she approached me. She said na, if I could talk to the principal so that tutulungan, kasi she knows naman that I work in a non-profit and then agriculture yung background, ganyan. And I was actually inspired by that act na I realized na kung isang bata pala, they can suggest a solution to a problem, parang dapat mahiya tayong mga adult na we're not doing something, no? So, ang ginawa ko, so we sort of collaborated, kaming father and daughter tandem. We collaborated, we brainstormed, and I asked her to, if she could talk to her principal using a name of an organization. So we called the word Kids Who Farm, and she eventually talked to the principal and then explained her idea and so on. So from that single idea, it snowballed into what it is now. No, the Kids Who Farm as a movement, as an advocacy initiative, and eventually as a non-profit startup.
Yeah, that's really amazing, no? Na yung founder pala ng Kids Who Farm is actually a 9-year-old child, and everything actually started from a school project. She wanted to save that garden. And I think now you're like doing this teaching of farming, teaching agriculture to kids. So I want to ask muna, how do you do this teaching? Meron ba kayong marang special, unique ways of how you do this teaching? Kasi I'm imagining hindi rin ganun kadali magturo ng agriculture or ng farming. So how do you do this?
So what we actually did was just to fully embrace the vision of Kids Who Farm, no, as also envisioned by our founder Raiina. She said, we want to make farming fun and easy. So literally everything revolves around that mantra na if you want to teach kids, it should be easy, it should be fun, it should be something that is relatable. So sort of we simplified learning processes in agriculture, although complex naman talaga siya, no? But there's a lot of areas to focus on na mag-i-enjoy pa rin yung mga bata. So before the pandemic, we used to have these face-to-face learning workshops, no, na ini-integrate namin yung mga skits, yung mga role-playing, even artworks, drawing sila ng mga garden, and then and a number of mga group works, no, in the process of teaching them, say for example container gardening. So we found out that it is very enjoyable for the kids, but also the adult. Enjoy din sila. So ang namin is that if the kids can understand the learning modules, ideally yung mga adults makakaintindi sila. So parang ganun yung naging mantra. So and then we shifted to online learning session during the pandemic. And Raiina was there. We created a learning module na using Zoom or Google Meet. Pero iba din yung impact talaga pag face to face kasi the kids can really participate, interact. So ayun. So that's how we designed. Siguro what we did was to, hindi naman sa amin yung source ng material. So what we did was just to collect everything, put it in a module. Now when we teach the kids, it's a step-by-step process. Say for example, when you teach hydroponics, you say 5 basic steps to hydroponics. So it's always step-by-step process. So kung container gardening is like 8 steps in container gardening. So we found out kasi na if you do it like that, parang masusundan ng mga participant. Hindi siya masyadong complicated, complex. So, ang explanation namin is that it's growing your own food is a science. No, it's a process. It's a step by step process. So whenever you make mistakes, you just go back to step 1. So parang ganun. So that's essentially how we do it now.
And actually, now that you mention it, na-realize ko na teaching shouldn't really be difficult. I mean, if you really go down to the basics, like really go down to the step-by-step process, maybe we can make that also for other topics, for other subjects. Pero really, we can really possibly teach things easier if we imagine teaching this to a kid, to someone who's younger, that maybe just being introduced to this new thing, maybe agriculture. Pero what I want to ask is, when you teach how, do you also teach the why? Parang bakit nga ba kailangan matutunan ng mga tao or even ng kids ang farming? So do they also know ba really how important is it to farm or to grow your own food? Is it also part of those modules of those materials?
Yeah, definitely. So there's always a context. No? So whenever we teach kids, actually we're teaching not just the kids regarding the context. It's always the parents. No. Parang kailangan mo turuan yung parents para ma-influence yung kids, no? So, but for the kids naman, yung context naman is really about, it's a science, no? It's like a learning experience for you, and of course, a basic life skill. Kasi if you know how to grow your food, you never get hungry, and at the same time, yung it's really witnessing the process of life. Kasi di ba, parang if you're growing a plant, you start with a seed. We actually, Raiina crafted a skit she called The Story of a Seed, and she made like avatars of the different characters of that story of a seed, no, from the seed to the seedling to the plant to the container, and then we made it as a skit, no, when we do the face-to-face training. So in a way, naiintindihan ng bata na okay, it really started from this little thing, and it grows and bears fruit, and yung mga kalaban niya, mga pests, diseases, and so on. So ginawa namin siyang ganun so that they can better understand it. But on the bigger scheme of things, what we're trying to actually effect is a change, no, of mindset. Pagdating naman doon sa adults, no, yung parents, no, kasi we realize, like, I'm a parent, no, of course I experience also these things, no. So ang nakita ko naman na we have the tendency to teach our kids how to eat right food, di ba? Healthy food, food pyramid. And then we teach our kids to finish the food on the table, on the plate, di ba? Huwag magsayang ng pagkain. But we actually seldom teach our kids how to grow the food. Hindi masyadong na-appreciate niya yung value of the food that he is eating kasi hindi niya na-experience yung buong proseso ng growing it. So, I guess as a parent, that's our bigger responsibility if we really want to build the next generation of food producers. Ang solution nasa bahay, nasa at home. We teach our kids the basics of growing food, and part of that is also for the parents to learn how to do it so that they can teach their kids. So parang ganun.
Yeah, and that's actually true kasi somehow, like in this urban world, parang taken for granted natin. Parang usually, when we buy our food, andyan na sa department store, nasa grocery, or even sa restaurants. Pero, I mean, we get detached somehow. I mean, most of the people somehow get detached dun sa actual process ng paggawa ng food na yan. And I think yun yung main na parang ginagawa din Kids Who Farm. Parang really to make people appreciate yung buong process that our food on our table, meron mahabang prosesong pinagdadaanan yan. And if you don't, kumbaga, kung hindi natin papahalagahan yung mga farmers or yung process of farming, mawawalan tayo ng pagkain in the future. Yes. And is that the reason ba why, because I also noticed that you also teach and you also advocate urban farming and hydroponics nga. So, can you just share about this? I mean, what is urban farming and why do you also teach about these things?
So, first and foremost, kasi we're from Zamboanga, which is really a highly urbanized city. So, Zamboanga is number 3 largest city in terms of land area in the Philippines, no? Next to Puerto Princesa and Davao. But unfortunately, we are 40% self-sufficient when it comes to vegetables. Meaning to say we're importing our 60% requirement as far as Baguio. So, ang layo, di ba? And that's, I guess, that's an opportunity for us to really focus on urban agriculture as a solution, because we have a lot of space in our city, and that is where we're coming from in urban agriculture. And we have also naman found out na it's going to be the future of farming. Of course, it will not compete with rural production, but what we're trying to establish is yung nakikita mo sa likod, yung hyperlocal food. So if you want to address our food system challenges, yung ating yung hunger, yung marami complex issues, no? Ang solution lang naman pala is you make it local. You bring food closer to you. If it's in your home, the better. If it's in your community, the better. So that's where urban agriculture comes in, and there's a bigger opportunity to actually utilize technologies that will enable farming to be fun and easy. Kumbaga, sabi ni Raiina, because in urban agriculture, you are actually utilizing, di ba, yung hydroponics technology, vertical farming, and a lot of other production systems na hindi lang siya limited to horticulture, but you also involve, di ba, growing livestock, poultry, even aquaculture, and seaweeds. Now we're doing that one in Zamboanga too. So yun ang nakita naming opportunity, and urban agriculture technologies can also be implemented in rural areas to lessen impact naman doon sa environment, sa soil, and so on. So maraming pros, no, yung urban agriculture. Hindi lang siya doon sa it's a city thing, no, hindi lang siya
Yeah, actually, I think ang mahalaga dito is yung self-sufficiency. I think because like in this world now of commerce and globalization even, sometimes we depend for food on other places. Pero at the end of the day, parang napakalaking advantage pa rin sa maybe in small communities or maybe for the country to be self-sufficient, for us to grow our own food. Malaking benepisyo ang makukuha natin diyan. Punta muna tayo sa ilang stories bilang co-founder ng Kids Farm, kasi I'm really interested kasi si Raiina, siya yung founder. So, and she's your daughter. So, I think it's kind of unique na father and daughter ang founders ng isang startup. So, can you just share muna how was the experience of making a startup with your daughter?
Yeah, it's a unique nga siya na case, no. But meron siyang family aspect, kasi it's my also a responsibility on my part na to help build naman parang help build the character, no, of my child in a way. But wala naman pressure doon in the organization, I serve as the operator. So may vision ng bata, ako yung nag-ooperate noon. Ako yung nagre-realize kumbaga nung vision na yon into implementable, na doable na mga steps. So, and the good thing is also during the early days or earlier months ng Kids Who Farm, wala pang pandemic talaga, heavy kaming dalawa ni Raiina in moving around, no, teaching communities. And that's where we met a lot of those kids also, yung youth na eventually became a part of our organization and became a part of, when we started to formalize na, sila na yung naging board, no, nung Kids Who Farm.
Ang galing. I can imagine, no, a startup is being run somehow by kids. Kumbaga sa kids nangagaling vision. And it's actually true kasi maybe the kids are somehow parang very ideal pa, and somehow really clean, really yung kumbaga yung nais makita, nais mangyari. And somehow the adults nagre-realize nitong mga vision na to. I think it's kind of a good synergy. But for you, Muneer, before joining Raiina's Kids Who Farm, so what were you doing? I mean, maybe what's your background? Do you teach ba, or do you have background in farming ba? Can you share about those things?
Actually, I'm a development worker, no, for most of my professional career. So I am working with NGOs, no, in Mindanao, and eventually work with an international nonprofit in WWF Philippines. And that's my background. Really involves I'm a business background, no? Business yung background ko, but experience-wise, I work with a lot of farmers and fisher folk, no. I'm in that sector, no, implementing development projects for rural countryside development. So and when I joined WWF, that's where I also used that skill in terms of enterprise dev, in integrating it to environmental projects, climate change projects, and sustainability. So doon nahasa yung ano. So part of my work is to really teach. No, I teach farmers. I mentor farmers, fisher folk, not just on the production side but business side. No, teaching them enterprise dev, yung mga ganon, financial literacy, and so on. So and yun nga, doon actually doon ko din na realize yung connection with my personal advocacy and my work. Kasi when I work with farmers, I have seen, no, yung totoo nga, yung the farmers are getting old, no, they're not getting any younger, and it's very unfortunate that whenever I teach new technologies, nagtuturo ako sa mga old farmers, no. And sabi ko, I guess hindi ko pwedeng upuan lang to na wala akong ginagawa, no. If I cannot do it within my work, I should do it outside of it, no, and effect that change. And parang nagkaroon lang talaga ng align lang yung mga stars in a way. Na si Raiina approached me and we started Kids Who Farm. And it's a fulfillment of that need na nakita ko in my work, no, yung Kids Who Farm. And it's really close to me because in a way I'm also, I'm a father, no? I have seen the need for building the next generation of future farmers through our teaching young people.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that make Kids Who Farm very unique and actually very somehow revolutionary kasi it's a different take, it's a different perspective on agriculture. As you've said nga, no, our farmers are not getting any younger. So we really need to teach the younger generation. We really need to prepare the future generation kasi baka in the future, hindi na tayo maging self-sufficient, wala tayong kakainin sa ating mga hapagkainan. So I think this is also one of the reasons, I think personally, why you won the first ever Manila Bulletin's UPLIFT Award for Agriculture kasi it's really a different take on agriculture, I think. So can you just share some stories behind this and how does it feel to win this award?
Well, sa words of Raiina, it's sabi niya, it's mind-blowing, it's surreal. So it's a surprise actually. We were surprised one day we received an email, no, na you're a winner, no, and there are 10 categories and these are the other winners. Sabi ko, wow, all the, I mean, ang dami namang pwedeng maging panalo doon, winner, but they chose Kids Who Farm. And also because I guess naman part of that, I guess the criteria also is that yung stories that they get now from the winners. And I realized naman kasi na this will amplify, that award will help amplify the work that we're doing and to enable, I mean, yung at the end of the day, inspire, no, a lot of kids na you can actually never too young to make a difference, no. Yun naman yung sinasabi namin na an idea kasi you need to invest in the ideas of young people. So you don't underestimate the ideas of your kids, of young people, because these are really, as you mentioned, no, these are really untainted ideas, no. So genuine ideas. So so that's the award itself is very prestigious, and we're very humbled, no, to be in diba, aligned, no, with the others in Ayala Corp and other I mean, sa panaginip lang namin siya na ano. But unfortunately, we're not there not to receive the award because of the pandemic. But we were represented by our ambassador. Our ambassador is Riche Santos, who is currently a candidate for Miss Philippines Earth, and she's bringing in Kids Who Farm as her advocacy. And she received the award on behalf of us. No? So, ayun. So
well, that's a good thing. Kasi, I mean, Kids Who Farm, I think one of the things that you're really doing is to bring out the message. And I think like this award and having this ambassador, I mean, it's really a good step towards really putting into mainstream the message that Kids Who Farm want to bring. And on the business side or like on the operational side, I'm also curious kasi you recently joined iDEYA, the startup incubator at MSU-IIT. So, siguro question then is maybe first, why did you join the incubator and how have you benefited? I mean, Like, paano nag-grow si Kids Farm on the business aspect din?
So, we were very clear no, when we started na this is going to be a non-profit undertaking. So, even when we started, kasi we were really straight out of the pocket, kumbaga yung mga resources no, and bootstrap and so on. And this is never really like a profit thing for us. No? But it needs to be sustainable. So, that's why before even starting with iDEYA, we actually started with Navigato, Caraga State University, where we also won. Our project pitch for that one is the school micro farm, which is one of the pillars namin, and that also won for as the first prize. And then when MSU-IIT opened up no, yung Mindanao Startup Challenge, ang amin lang is just we want to apply, so we submitted the same pitch deck, and then eventually we got in no. So and yun na nag-start na yung 6 months na incubation program, and we're the only one na non-profit startup, and I guess kami din ata yung, I don't know if kami yung first, but I guess kami lang ni ata talaga yung who came in as a non-profit. Kaya yung mga I will learn a lot no doon sa learning process, sina Sir Carlo Valencia and all the other guru doon sa startup ecosystem was there to teach us. But yun nga yung dilemma kasi whenever you teach, di ba, yung founder share, mga ganyan. So wala kami ganun eh. So hindi siya ganun eh. So but it's really a good learning experience for us, and I guess beyond the yung inputs na binigay sa amin, yung sharing of experience ng mga mentors, I guess the network that they're trying to build, and it's really good talaga. I mean, coming from Mindanao, we take pride kasi in a way na galing kaming Mindanao eh. Parang kahit saan ka sa Mindanao, basta taga Mindanao ka, parang gano'n. Yung and something na we want to also share naman the things that we're doing here, and because like Zamboanga for example, hindi naman nababalita masyado yung mga ginagawa ng mga tao. Baka naman it's also a way for us to share what we're doing and hopefully create an impact. So when we submitted the idea of yung idea namin sa iDEYA, it's actually a low cost na we called it Hyper Food Box. It's a low cost na hydroponic production system that can be integrated in a micro farm setup, which is currently we're implementing it, and that idea was actually funded by Google Philippines. So that's what we're implementing here. It's a project na ini-implement ng mga PWDs ng Zamboanga. No? So it's a Hyperfood Box is a PWD friendly urban food production system. No, na inclusive pa rin yung approach, that yun nga yung thought na everyone can be a part of the solution to food, no? Not just the farmers but women, practically everyone, even PWDs can take part of the solution. So so that's why we're bringing in that innovation, no? Kasi pwede naman sa urban agriculture pala na kahit PWD ka, naka-wheelchair ka, pwede ka pa rin mag-gardening, no? So parang ganon. And and that actually brought us to another naman, no? Yung incubation program ni Upscale. We're a part of that Upscale project design, but we didn't make it but kami lang din yung from Mindanao. So yeah, and that's really good. That's a good experience for us.
Yeah, and it's still really putting the message out there. I want to touch first dun muna sa pagiging non-profit, no. I actually agree na hindi naman kailangan, I think, maging profit based really for a startup. For me, I think what's needed is really to sustain, as you've mentioned nga, to have a model that nasusustain yung operations, or maybe nasusustain yung advocacy. And in Kids Farm's case, nasusustain yung bringing out the message for bringing agriculture to the kids and making agriculture easy and fun, and basically making food, or making our capability to produce food self-sufficient. And I want to ask now, so asa na ba ang Kids Farm now? I mean, ano na bang inyong ginagawa talaga? And do you also really plan to teach this kind of farming, I mean, to teach farming this way to all schools all over the Philippines? So ano ba yung main na ginagawa nyo now?
So, yung pinaka-main talaga namin na pillar, one of our core program is what we call the Hyperlocal Food Network. So the Hyperlocal Food Network is actually our proof of concept na we established in Zamboanga, na if we create more localized food production, more micro farms, no, either in the community or in the school, and integrate it into a system na you also teach the community about agro-enterprise. So it's not just producing food but also selling it, and financial literacy. That's going to be the sustainability mechanism ng community microfarm. So hindi lang siya tipong nag-harvest ka lang ngayon tapos na, no? So parang it's going to sustain itself in the long run, and I guess we have a pretty good proof of concept in Zamboanga, and that is the model na we're trying to export and help other cities and communities replicate, no? So at present we have replicated that one in Cagayan de Oro. We have 2 communities there. We partnered with university, no, USTP, who was also hosting the CDO Bites, di ba? And then we are trying to work now with BARM to establish an island microfarm in Tawi-Tawi. Our goal kasi is to make Zamboanga self-sufficient, no? Yung 40% na production ng Zamboanga ng gulay is not absorbed 100% by Zamboangueños because it's being transported to the islands kasi yun ang trade flow. So if you can make the islands self-sustainable, you're actually helping Zamboanga become self-sustainable as well. So that's our goal, to work with young people's organizations there in BARM, so that we can establish local food self-sufficiency within the island. And yung replication na yan, yung pinaka-latest is that we're negotiating with another group in Pasig because they want to replicate the microfarm model. So may 3 components siya, no? Yung production, yung marketing, and then yung financial literacy. So in the financial literacy kasi, we also developed a program we called Hyperlocal Kapital Community Savings Club. This is the one we submitted to PhilDev and Cebuana Lolier, which won 2nd place. No, so, and we were given the grant, no, so that we can train more communities on financial literacy and savings mobilization. So if your garden is your hyperlocal source of food, your community savings club is your hyperlocal source of capital to enable more communities to diba, self-sufficiency, both food, finance, and community-wise. So amplify it, make our cities something like that. I guess yung issue natin of food self-sufficiency and localizing our food system, mas ma-address natin yon. And by then, siguro hindi na relevant yung Kids Who Farm. So ayun. So that's really the goal.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. I'm really amazed, to be honest. Like firstly, nagsimula siya sa isang school garden, teaching kids to farm, and then now yung business model natin na develop nyo, or not business model, like an advocacy model, is yung hyperlocal food, or parang basically making or allowing communities to be self-sufficient, to be able to produce their own food. I think that's a very, very good story. So now we've covered the past and the present. So I want to ask them on the future. So what do you think is the future of farming or future of agriculture?
So there's no silver bullet, no, in a way that we're trying to help make this one as not a singular activity. So the future would be for us to work together, no, and make sure that we can take advantage of new technology. So ang future ng Kids Who Farm is that we're not gonna, if we are given the chance, no, hindi lang naman to sa Philippines, if we can work with other partners in other countries. And we're fortunate that we have actually an assigned MOU with an NGO in Malaysia. It's called PWD Smart Farmability. So it's a PWD run NGO. So yung PWD project namin in Zamboanga is influenced by that one. And the future is also not just agriculture. The future is aquaculture, and that is why we invest heavily in seaweed farming in Zamboanga. So we have a Kids Who Farm seaweed program where we also teach kids about seaweed farming as an economic enterprise, but also seaweed as an environmental solution to climate change. So yun ang two-pronged approach nun. So, and yung issue kasi ng seaweed is also the same with agriculture. not a lot of young people na mga anak ng seaweed farmers would like to venture into seaweed because they move to cities, di ba, yung look for other opportunities. So that's going to be one of the trajectory ng Kids Who Farm. And siguro partnership wise, we want to scale up, but we want to make this as a movement in a way. So that's why in each area we create parang volunteer squad. Ang mga volunteer namin, we call it garden attackers. So parang garden attack. So we do garden attacks actually. Para kung may art attack, may garden attack din kami. So in Zamboanga, we announce na we have a garden attack. So all these volunteers will come up to that area and they'll help build the garden and then turn over into the community. So ganun yung ginagawa namin.
Yeah, so maybe somehow na parang maybe in the future, maybe I'm not sure 10, 20, 30 years, cities, communities, even houses have their own farms na possibly makakuha na doon ng produce, makakuha na doon ng own food kasi nalilesen yung like cost for transportation, cost for trading, and minsan meron pang mga transactional cost kasi paiba-iba ng lugar, ng organization. So I think that's one of the key benefits din na dinadala ng self-sufficiency. Pero I want these things to come from you. So for our last question, Muneer, so how important really is self-sufficiency and how important really is agriculture towards fulfilling this aspect, this issue?
Siguro I would like to echo yung quote from Wendell Berry. Sabi niya, eating is an agricultural act. So that itself explains why you and I, even we're not farmers, we should be participating in this whole discussion of food kasi it concerns us, no? So and yung idea pa lang na we're part of the food system, either you're doing something doon sa production, sa marketing, that sa buong chain ng food system, it is our responsibility, it is our role to participate in food self-sufficiency. And I always say naman, food is really political, no? Whether what color, ano pa yung kulay mo. Pagkain, importante talagang ma-push forward talaga yon. And yun nga, this is parang the best time to put forward the agenda kasi we have realized kasi na there's a lot of, problems that we've encountered in the current food system that we have. And it also has a toll on the environment. Na yun yung localized food system, you're actually contributing also to a lot of environmental challenges or environmental solutions. Na I realize too na hindi mo na kailangan talagang mag-complicate pa ng mga things to address a lot of environmental issues. Just by starting your own garden, you can actually create a positive impact, not just for your family in terms of food access, but in terms of your impact to the overall environment. So parang parang we're not in the position to discuss bigger environmental issues when we ourselves don't know how to grow a plant or a food. Parang ganon yung point na gusto naming stress doon sa concern na to.
Yeah, this is really life-changing for me, no? To be honest, I'm one of those people na parang nagiging detached, parang nagiging unfamiliar sa buong process ng agriculture. That we are really part, that's really true. We are really part of the whole system. So dapat tayong talagang, hindi na tayo kain ng kain. Hindi na tayo consume ng consume. We should take our part in producing food, or at least don't harm it. Don't harm. I mean, basically, help one another towards a self-sufficient community. Yeah, so thank you very much, Muneer. This is a very wonderful conversation. So if listeners want to know more about Kids Who Farm, so how can they find more information? Where can they find you? How can they contact you?
Yeah, actually, nasa social media kami, nasa Facebook kami. You can check out Kids Who Farm. And on Facebook, we're also on Instagram and Twitter. We're currently building our website. So hopefully ma-up na rin yun soon. And we have actually another flagship program na meron ding separate na Facebook page. It's called Kids Can Compost. So where all the discussion related to food waste and zero waste lifestyle are integrated because as already mentioned, everything's connected, di ba? So pag-usapan na rin natin yung bigger environmental issues related to food. So separately, that's the program of Kids Can Farm. So you can check out those Facebook pages. And if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at wearekidswhofarm@gmail.com. And yeah, if you have questions, please feel free to message us. We're mabilis kaming mag-reply.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of the Facebook page. No? Ang ganda ng mga posts nyo actually. Actually, madalas na nag-like doon eh. Yeah, so maraming salamat, Muneer. This is a really good conversation. Talking about kids who farm and agriculture and being self-sufficient. So, maraming salamat for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much to our 18 patrons. This episode is super powered by NutriCoach, the all-in-one productivity tool for dietitians and nutritionists. Looking for buy and sell online with Sigurado sellers, and Benjoy's Food Products, the home of premium bacon ends, tapa, and tocino. This episode is powered by ePlayment, Interleukin, and ROC.ph. Support us at www.patreon.com/startuppodcastph.